resume debate. The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and it is good to be able to enter into debate in this place. And thank you. Thank you to my colleagues. You know, I'm glad that everyone is so chipper, even though the debate goes late here this evening. And of course, Madam Speaker, thank you for your guiding the debate over the course of this evening. Look, it's important as we address the many challenges that we face as a nation, that I would, if you would indulge me, Madam Speaker, just make a couple of comments that aren't directly related to the subject matter at hand. Madam Speaker, with the most seriousness, you know, as we see some of the events that are taking place around the world, specifically the unrest in Ukraine, my heart and my prayers are certainly with the people of Ukraine this evening, as it seems like that what appears to be a rapidly evolving situation. Certainly it is of the utmost importance that our country has a strong response, and certainly I know for myself and the members of the Ukrainian diaspora that live in my constituency, it is a very, very serious evening as they wait upon what could be an incredibly challenging time for that country. So, Madam Speaker, I would just like to acknowledge that and say to the people of the Ukraine that might be watching this, you know, certainly we are thinking of you and praying for you, and I hope that you know, as we face these challenges, that Canada will be there to stand for democracy and what's right in this world. Madam Speaker, thank you for that, first and foremost. You know, we are here again, the second debate this week where closure has been invoked, where the government moves a motion, for all of those watching at home, as I'm sure there are many, moves a motion to limit debate on a particular issue. And in this case, Madam Speaker, it's a problem that the government created. And like yesterday when we entered into debate on the situation regarding rapid tests, it's pandemic related. And now Canadians expect all of us in this place to be responsive to the challenges that we face as a country. Now, Madam Speaker, I'd like to backtrack a little bit to July of last year, when as many, certainly those who are 65 and older, and quite frankly many other Canadians who have depended on or receive certain benefits from the government. It's on July 1st that they, in many cases, figure out exactly what the calculation is for their next year's benefits. And Madam Speaker, as we finished up the spring sitting of Parliament this past June, we started hearing from constituents. I started hearing from constituents, and I'm sure that others across this place started hearing from constituents concerned that their benefits were going to be clawed back. And what has become commonly referred to as the GIS clawback has had a significant impact on certainly many of my constituents. And I know that I'm sure I'm not alone, as I've listened to some of the speeches of other members over the course of this debate today. Now, Madam Speaker, you would think that the government would be quick to respond on what appeared to be a fairly technical, bureaucratic issue with the way that benefits were calculated, and depending on how a particular, in this case a senior, applied for a benefit versus whether they applied through the EI system versus the CRA that administered the CERB and other pandemic benefits, it depended on simply, in some cases, in fact, I had a constituent that said they applied the wrong day. If they'd have waited one day, or applied one day earlier rather, they would have been okay. But in this case, Madam Speaker, they were facing a significant personal difficulty because of that one-day difference causing a GIS clawback. Now, Madam Speaker, the reason why I wanted to talk about that time about 7 months ago is because instead of the government had a responsibility. And certainly I started bringing this up. Letters were sent. My staff were working with constituents. We're trying to work with the minister's office. And Madam Speaker, I saw a alarming lack of response from the various avenues of government that one would expect should be ready to serve Canadians, especially some of the most vulnerable in this country that depend on things like the GIS. Madam Speaker, we did find out about a month and a half later, after many of these benefits were recalculated, and many seniors across this country, there were some media reports at the time talking about this, we found out the reason why the government wasn't responsive, and it's because that they were putting their obvious energy and focus into not the best interests of Canadians, but rather an election. And Madam Speaker, it is incredibly unfortunate that now, however many months later, 6, 7 months later, we are now finally getting to the meat of addressing the challenges that these Canadians are facing. Now, Madam Speaker, it's unfortunate because this highlights what has been a very, very concerning trend with this Liberal government. And to hear the Liberals talk today about somehow it's Conservatives' fault that this is that we're actually even just wanting to ask simple questions about Bill C-12 and and I know it's not only Conservatives that have questions. I've heard other questions from my colleagues in the Bloc Québécois and in the NDP and the Green Party. There's a lot of questions, Madam Speaker, and the Liberals will have to forgive me if them saying just trust me is not a good enough answer when it comes to actually addressing the challenges that these Canadians are facing. Because, Madam Speaker, when Canadians expected their government to be working for them, they were planning an election. And yet now they'll claim that they need somehow a Team Canada approach, and it's the bad Conservatives that are all about delay or whatever their talking points for the day are. That the reality, Madam Speaker, couldn't be further from the truth. So we have before us a bill that is attempting to fix what was a Liberal problem that has had a pretty significant impact on the challenges faced by seniors. And Madam Speaker, I hope you'll indulge me again as I spoke to my constituency assistant and case manager earlier today. And I asked her, I said, look, I'm going to be speaking this evening on Bill C-12. It has to do with GIS. And could you share some of the calls that we've received over the last number of weeks? You know, just as light synopsis so that I could share some of the challenges that seniors are facing. And Madam Speaker, she sent me an email with a number of just stories. So Madam Speaker, I'd like to read some of those into the record here. I have a constituent by the name of Larry. Madam Speaker, Larry had to move out of his home, the home he lived in for more than 40 years, because he couldn't afford his bills. And further to that, shortly after selling his home and moving into this rental property, he got a notice from the landlord saying that his rent will increase to the maximum that's allowed to be increased over the course of his lease because of the challenges associated with heating costs. You know, Madam Speaker, Larry thought that he was in a good position going into retirement. And now he's facing incredible challenges. And my constituency assistant, listening to his story, uncertainty around whether he'd be able to make it to even get the benefits that we're talking about here tonight. Madam Speaker, these are real stories, real people. You know, we've had a number of folks that have reached out and said, look, the cost of heating. Madam Speaker, I've been sent dozens of bills from heating bills from constituents over the course of the last number of months, as I know members opposite have as well. And you know what's quite tragic, Madam Speaker, is that often the cost of energy is one of the smaller items on those bills. Things like the carbon tax and other distribution fees and whatnot. Now, not all of those are federal jurisdiction, but Madam Speaker, the costs are especially for those on fixed incomes, those can't simply be absorbed. Madam Speaker, the challenges that many seniors are facing. Cost of living. Having a number of seniors that have shared how they now have to, more than ever, when they go to the grocery store, look at things like the cost of milk and decide whether or not they can buy a jug of milk that week, or whether they have to find a less expensive alternative, whether they can afford meat or not. And when I had one senior, she shared with me that her benefit increase, according to inflation, was 65 cents a month. Now, Madam Speaker, I'm not sure if you've been to the grocery store in the last little while, but the cost of everything. There's not much you could buy for 65 cents. And these are the challenges that real people are facing. And then further, the fact that I've heard from some seniors, including those who have been impacted by some of this GIS clawback, that have had to take out debt in order to make it through, and now they're watching the evening news and they hear talk of interest rates. And the debt that they've had to take out, these are not, long-term secure lending options. These were last-ditch efforts to try to maintain, to put food on their tables. And now they're hearing the talk about interest rates and just more uncertainty. Madam Speaker, it is incredibly unfortunate that this is the reality for so many. Yet, I'll hear the finance minister, whenever she's asked a question about the finance minister and deputy prime minister, whenever she's asked a question about, the economy, it's accusations of the Conservatives somehow dragging down the economy. Well, Madam Speaker, in real terms, the inflation in this country is about twice the amount that wage growth is. So whether that's the minimal indexing that seniors' pensions and benefits get, or the young family or the student that simply is having trouble making ends meet, Madam Speaker, it may be all well and fine for property owners. It may be all well and fine for those who have consistent incomes with guaranteed escalators that many blue-collar Canadians would dream about, Madam Speaker. But when it comes to the real impacts of policies of this government, it's hurting Canadians. So when we come back to the reality faced by Bill C-12, we do have a chance here to fix a problem. But I think that it needs to be noted, very, very importantly, Madam Speaker, that the role of this place is to ensure that things like the mistakes that have been highlighted and the government's admission of those mistakes through the tabling of Bill C-12 and the significant delays that have been faced by not something that they can blame on the Conservatives, because, Madam Speaker, I can tell you a secret. The only person in this House that can decide when an election will be called outside of the fixed election date that was brought in by the former Harper government is the man who sits in the chair across the aisle. It had nothing to do with it had nothing to do with the opposition. Now, I'm sure that if our Prime Minister was able to find some, a creative way to meander around a cleverly worded talking point, he'd try to blame the opposition, but he chose to call an election. So here we are, last minute, last hour, trying to get this stuff sorted out for Canadians. Yet my submission to you, Madam Speaker, and I don't think I'm even talking in hypotheticals, but my submission is that had we had the chance to more fulsomely debate many of these things, we wouldn't be in this situation. We were criticized yesterday, Madam Speaker, and it's very relevant to this debate. We were criticized yesterday for asking simple questions about things like the delivery of rapid tests. We've heard many questions today about what this looks like in terms of its possible impact benefit for future benefits for seniors. In fact, I heard the minister, Madam Speaker, talk earlier today, completely misleading what were former Conservative policies regarding benefits, and what I think was an attempt to score some cheap political points, but truly misleading when she brought forward some of those comments. Madam Speaker, this place is unique in the sense that every corner of our country is represented. There is no forum like it. We have literally every square inch of our country is represented by the 338 individuals that have the honor of sitting in these seats. And Madam Speaker, I think that it's important that, this is what makes the strength of our democratic system, is the fact that when we come to this place, different levels of expertise, different political affiliations, and although, Madam Speaker, I certainly would submit to you that I was somewhat disappointed with the makeup of the number of seats each particular party got after the last election, that the Prime Minister said he wouldn't call but did anyways, it still ensures that every square inch of this country is represented. The fact that we can have debate, that we can hear from the people of this country, the fact that we have a wide diversity of perspectives represented here, not just the political ideology, the politics and the ideological perspectives, Madam Speaker, but truly perspectives from different backgrounds. We have a medical doctor that sits as a Conservative. Now, it's interesting that there's some spin doctors on the other side. Sorry, I had to take that shot. But it speaks to the strength of our system. You know, we have lawyers, we have social workers, we have farmers, and of which I'm proud, Madam Speaker, I will say, to have a farming background. And interesting to note, especially for a certain demographic that happens to have been involved in a certain protest that has dominated some headlines as of late. You know, I'm proud to have a Class 1 license, which means that I can drive those big rigs out front. So if anybody needs help moving them, I can actually do it legally. I'm not sure the Prime Minister can, but it's just a little something that I'm proud of from the fact that I still farm, and some of my colleagues can share some, I'm sure, fun experiences about that. But Madam Speaker, the strength of this place is in the diversity represented. Women, men, different ethnic origins. There's some from Ukrainian background, as I mentioned some of the challenges that they're facing. Madam Speaker, there are some that that are fairly new to Canada, fairly recent citizens. But there's some that like myself, that are multi-generational. And Madam Speaker, I think that's why I find it so frustrating that over the course of my time since being elected in 2019, that the Liberals have seemed to avoid the democratic discourse that this place needs to function. They seem to try to avoid it at all costs. Madam Speaker, that harms our ability to succeed as a country. That harms our ability to be able to function well. We will disagree about different aspects of politics. We'll disagree. Chances are, there are those within this place that will want to read the opinion columns and agree with the opinion columns of the Toronto Star. There are those that probably would agree with what's talked about on Rabble. There are those that read the National Post or the Globe and Mail. But Madam Speaker, it speaks to the strength of what our democratic institutions are. So as I come to the end of this very, very important discussion, Madam Speaker, I think that it is important to acknowledge that there are, to the substance of this bill, there are so many that have been affected by this. We have to take the time that's needed to get this right. Because in many cases, for that senior like Larry, they need us to get things right. So like with the CEBA, I think it was the third or fourth try that it was finally fixed. Like with so many other examples, Madam Speaker, the discourse that happens in this place is so very important so that we can solve and deal with the challenges that Canadians are facing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments. The honourable member, the honourable parliamentary secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Always interesting to hear from the member opposite. We are discussing a bill relating to seniors tonight. Just a question for the member. Does he still agree with his party's position that apparently hasn't evolved, not that I've heard it, that the age of eligibility for OAS should be 67 as they had changed a number of years ago under the Harper government, or should it in fact be 65 where this government restored it? What does he think about that?
Honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and there it is. You have a Liberal that thinks that they can score simply that cheap political shot. So it was the minister, interestingly, in her remarks, that suggested that age of eligibility was going to be applied to everything. I think probably even the child benefit. You know, wait till 67 for the child benefit. You know, that couldn't be further from the truth. Madam Speaker, first let's get the facts on the record. Okay, the previous Harper government.
It was short. The answer has to be short too. The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank my colleague for his intervention today. I will say that I am in Alberta right now, his home province, so it is a little earlier for me, so I'm a little bit lucky for that. I'd also like to thank him for his words on Ukraine. I think that it is something that all of us are seized with at the moment, and so I thank him for that. You know, I agree with the member when he talks about the cruel delays that the Liberals have put our most vulnerable seniors through. And my question for him is, as we go forward, I mean, I think everyone in this House wants to move as fast as we possibly can for seniors. You know, one of the times I was most proud of being a member of Parliament during this particular sitting is when the Conservative government moved all stages of the conversion therapy ban. So that the Conservatives were the ones that moved so that we would ban conversion therapy, and I was so proud of the Conservatives then. So why do they see this moment when they could do the same thing? We could move fast for seniors. Why do they see that it is not an opportunity to use the powers that we have as parliamentarians to get help to seniors as fast as we can?
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So first, let me get back to finish the facts about the previous member's response.
That he's answering questions as they come. Thank you.
Well, I look forward to being able to debate that, I'm sure, at length at some point in time, Madam Speaker, of which would be very, very important. You know, the simple response, Madam Speaker, is that there was a lot of litigation that took place, dialogue, upon the issue that she's mentioned, that did take place in the last Parliament. And a lot of work that got it to the point where then the decision was made for that to be fast-tracked in this Parliament. But, Madam Speaker, we are literally debating a fix to a problem with a program that the government created. So, Madam Speaker, forgive my skepticism when it comes to my lack of trust with the fact that the Liberals would have gone through the due diligence to actually get it right. You know, when you have to address the challenges with CEBA 3 times, when you have time and time again, there are many examples where the government will claim that we need a Team Canada approach. Yet, what happens? We end up back here in this place having to fix their mistakes. So, Madam Speaker, I think there's a healthy level of skepticism that so many have when it comes to ensuring that we can do exactly what our jobs is. And the fact that we're sitting till midnight.
And now it's time for another question. The honourable member for Mission, Matsqui, Fraser.
This is such a riveting debate. I especially enjoyed the at-length comments from my friend from Battle River Crowfoot on diversity and how we all represent 338 unique corners of this world. I happen to think my riding's the #1 riding in Canada. I've got glaciers, I've got ski hills, I've got all sorts of great things. But one of the things that we all come here to do as members of Parliament, Madam Speaker, is go to committee. And I love committee. But on this bill, we've been prevented from going to committee. And what I'm worried about in this legislation and the other one that passed the other day, what is the importance of committees in debating legislation, and why should we not bring this bill before a committee? Would Canadians not be better served if we spent one day before the other House returns next week to debate this bill in committee and go clause by clause? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate the comment from the eminent member from Fraser River, Mascui Canyon? Mission Mascui Fraser Canyon. My apologies. And although I would disagree with him quite strongly on the best riding in the country, although I do not have glaciers, it may feel like that before Chinook comes in the cold winter months that start pretty early in the fall and go pretty late in the spring. Madam Speaker, he makes a very, very valid point. There is due process in this place that has been finely tuned over more than a century here, and multiple centuries, close to a millennia of parliamentary process when it comes to the historical basis for the Westminster system, which we are all privileged to be able to take our seat in. And Madam Speaker, the committee process is one of the very, very valid and important steps that is required to ensure that we get it right. And Madam Speaker, that's why again, forgive me for my skepticism, but the fact that the Liberals were fixing a Liberal mistake, Madam Speaker, I think that we should make sure that there aren't further mistakes that will end up hurting folks like Larry that deserve government to get it right.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to ask the honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot if he has an answer to the question of the Conservative Party position on OAS at age 67.
Member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Now, thank you, Madam Speaker. She asked that pretty quick, so this will take just a moment, so I hope you'll indulge me just slightly. Madam Speaker, the conversations that took place back in 2013 and 14 were about making sure that there was the long-term viability of a benefit that Canadians depended on. So I find it ironic that the Liberals will try to talk about somehow there were significant cuts when it was truly about ensuring that there was a conversation.
Questions and comments, the honourable member, the honourable parliamentary secretary of the government.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I really want to go back to the question that my NDP colleague asked previously, because she made an excellent point. You know, this member allowed to pass all stages of the conversion therapy ban bill all in one quick unanimous consent motion where everybody agreed to all stages of it, and it passed unanimously so quickly, and this member clearly voted in favor of it. Why doesn't this member care about seniors the same way that he does clearly the LGBTQ community?
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot. Yes, yes, on a point of order. Yes.
So, Madam Speaker, I believe that if we were to look at the standing orders and conventions of this place, to try and impugn the record of a member is certainly not something that's permitted within the dialogue of this esteemed chamber.
What do you mean? Point of order?
Let me first consult, please. Thank you. Can I caution the honourable member to be a bit, perhaps, less blunt in impugning intentions in the honourable member? But I do ask the member to answer, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate your clarification on the matter. You know, I find it that again, it's ironic that we're dealing with two very, very different issues here. We are fixing a problem with a Liberal bill. That's what this bill is about. We're fixing a problem with a Liberal problem. So, Madam Speaker, when it comes to Bill C4 and C6, there was extensive debate that has taken place over the course of my time in Parliament that certainly led to the decisions that were made regarding conversion therapy. Madam Speaker, when it comes to this bill, I find it very, very troubling that members opposite would somehow suggest that it is a dislike or some aversion against a certain segment of society, that we would simply want to be here to do our jobs. Madam Speaker, that is the sort of politics that is forcing Canadians to give up the faith that they should have in our public institutions. Madam Speaker, we have a job.
One last question. The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for your intervention this evening. I'm happy that I'll speak to the chair here, but I'm happy to hear about Larry specifically. I have many cases or constituents in my riding of Nanaimo Ladysmith with very, very similar stories to Larry, so I'm always happy to hear about what's happening in other ridings and to know, unfortunately, this story is not alone. I'd like to know, during the pandemic, we saw that, unfortunately, that the seniors are becoming poorer while the ultra-rich are getting richer. And I'm wondering if the member can speak to the fact that that it's time now, for the ultra-rich. Clearly the late night is starting to get to me. But if the member could please clarify if it is now time for the ultra-rich to pay their fair share and to finally provide seniors like that of Larry with what they need and deserve, such as affordable.
The Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot in about 20 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the question. I think that, like Larry, there are so many blue-collar workers out here, and including many that are shift workers, that this would be the hour that they start work. So, Madam Speaker, it is an honor to be able to participate in debate in this place at an hour when many across this country, whether it be healthcare workers or any other segment of the Canadian economy, that may be just getting to work. Madam Speaker, we see the devastating impacts of things like inflation that are making the middle and lower income Canadians, making them poorer. And Madam Speaker, these things have to be addressed to ensure that whether it be benefits being indexed appropriately, making sure that they can simply qualify for what they're entitled to. Madam Speaker, I could go on and on and on about this extensively.
We can't. Resuming